Good journey, everyone, and welcome to our second review of the Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser. That's right. I brought you one review right after I got off of the first voyage ever for the public, and now I am off the second ever voyage for the public. I come off as the only person to ever pay twice for the Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser. It may not be true. There were some repeat people. There were a couple of repeat people on that second cruise beyond me. I was not alone. So to preface this, number one, we have a nice long first review of Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser already up here on the YouTube channel. It's labeled as an honest, in-depth review of the experience, and you should absolutely watch that first. You should not watch this one because this one, I'm not going to cover a lot of the things I covered in the first one if they were exactly the same this time around. This is going to be focused on what was different and what was interesting and what were the observations made during the second voyage we had on the Galactic Starcruiser. Many of you, I asked if you wanted this and said you were interested, so we're providing this. But for those of you that somehow this came up and not the other one, I want to tell you really should watch that one first and then come back to this one to see how things were different. So let's dive right in. I don't need to give you the full explanation of what it, again, if you watch that first video, you have the explanation, you have the basis here. And so let's just jump in and talk about differences and new observations from our second voyage aboard the Halcyon. First section I want to talk about is staffing. So what was obvious from the moment we arrived was that there were less cast members. I don't mean entertainment cast. Same amount of entertainment cast. There was less staffing in general in most places. So upon arrival, we still had sort of that white glove service upon arrival. Someone took the bags and they took the car. In trying to find someone to check in with, things were a little different. It seemed to be a little more chaos. They did set up a queue finally out in front, and somehow no one realized that Disney people wanted to line up for things in advance. That was a stunning revelation at the first cruise. So now they had set up a little temporary queue. And so we got in that line, and then finally someone came and greeted us, checked us in, gave us our bags and everything. A cute thing they did, realizing we'd just been on the first voyage, was they gave us the magic bands they're selling, not these ones. They gave us these again too, so we got another set of these. But they also gave us sort of a bonus magic band. They gave us a set of the black magic bands that they sell in the Chandrilla collection shop, which I thought was a really nice gesture. Like, this is your second cruise, we want to give you something a little extra. And it was not just us. It was not something done because they knew who we were. It was something done for, I noticed the other two parties I recognized that had been on the first official Starcruiser voyage also had the black band on. So it was something clearly they were doing for any returning guests, which again, I thought was a nice gesture. But as far as staffing, we noticed some little things. Number one, they started to board late. So they let us in, but it wasn't really until like 1:20, 1:30 that they started boarding the transports up to the ship. So that was a little delayed. I don't know if maybe just first time ever turning over the ship after a public voyage. Maybe it took a little longer than expected. There was some holdup on board of some kind. And so that took a little longer. But then staffing, we noticed there were less. Obviously, you know, first public voyage, there was a ton of management. Disney management loves to come out for the first thing. They love to feel important and be there for the first thing, and then they vanish forever, seemingly, in most cases. So a lot of those managers were nowhere to be seen on this voyage. So there was not a bunch of PR people and middle management and upper management just hanging around. Still a lot of people from Imagineering milling about, but doing their job, really, making sure things are still going well, and they probably will be for several weeks. That's kind of a thing WDI people do, is oversee and watch and see and make sure everything's going according to plan and see what needs to be changed, what needs to be altered, what is working and what isn't. It's very normal. But in total, there were less cast members also in costume working on the ship. I think my theory is that they wanted everything, number one, to go well on the first voyage, but also these people have been hired for these positions for quite a while, and probably everyone wanted to work the first cruise, right? Like, that's an exciting thing. You want to be there when it opens. You've trained to open this thing. You'd like to be the first group to open it. So that's why I think they were kind of almost double staffed on the first one, was that not only would it be a good show, but also everyone wanted to work it, right? So it's a nice gesture. That being said, some entertainment people did not. We had a very different entertainment staff. All the characters were, nearly all of the characters were portrayed by different actors and actresses this time. But again, less staffing. So we noticed in day 2 when they do that Taste of the Galaxy meal on the first cruise, there were enough servers to where literally enough people came out of the back and they put the plates down all in order on all the tables. It took 2 trips this time because they had half the serving staff that they did on the first voyage. At least that's what it appeared like to us. So maybe that's wrong. Maybe they did that on the first cruise and we just didn't realize it, but it definitely seemed like there were more of them on the first cruise than on this one. So we would dare say there felt like way less staffing on this one, which was probably better because the ship felt a little less crowded. Not that it was overcrowded the first time, but it was nice to have some more space. It was nice to have some more space. And they definitely got the finale show, as far as crowd control for that, they got that under wraps. Like that was handled much, much better this time, much better. Again, I talked about the little bit of a wait we had to get up to the ship, but going to Batuu, we had a bit of a wait as well. So on the first voyage, we had scheduled what is the first transport off of the ship. That was at 8:20 a.m. So we were the first people off. There was no wait. We were pretty much alone when we went to Batuu. And this time we went a little later and we waited like a half hour. So not ideal, right? It's very close by. I don't really want to wait a half hour to get over there. You've given me Lightning Lane, which allows me to skip the line at Rise of the Resistance, which has a multi-hour wait, but you can't figure out a way to get these transports to get everyone over there, at the right time. There is a scheduled time on your data pad on the schedule you have there. Most people are not adhering to that. They're either going earlier or going later, and it is so it's not really working exactly. But then again, you shouldn't be able to. I don't know if everyone should have to wait, right? If you want to go at 8:20 a.m., you should be able to go at 8:20 a.m., right? You shouldn't have to wait till 9 when it says you're supposed to go and be 40 minutes behind everyone else that is on the ship with you. So I get that, but they probably have some things to figure out with the transport. And also, they were filling them until they were standing room. So we stood on our trip to Batuu, which again, it's a 5-minute ride. I don't really care. I just thought that was interesting that they were even going into standing room only space at that point. Kind of comical. And at that point when you're standing, it felt like a box truck sitting. It sure as hell feels like a box truck when you're standing in it. That hasn't changed a lot. I want to talk about claustrophobia because this time we had the Galaxy class suite on the first cruise, and on the second one we had a standard cabin with the 5th sleeper. I personally don't suffer from claustrophobia. I don't get claustrophobic. So I didn't have any problem. I also didn't think the room was that small. I thought the bathroom and the shower were a little small, considering you're not paying for the room, right? You're paying for a lot of things. The room is not the full thing you're paying for. I know because it's a Star Wars hotel, everyone goes, the room doesn't match the price. You're paying for a lot of entertainment and a lot of other things that are also included. But the bathroom does feel a bit tight, but the living room, the bedroom doesn't. I thought there was a good amount of room around the bed. The bunk beds are bigger than they look. It's some sort of optical illusion when you look at those things, even in person. Even in person, staring at them across the room, I'm like, I'm not going to fit in there. And then I laid down flat and there was like, I don't know how this happened, but I fit in this bunk bed. I don't know, but it happened. And but other than that, I think the rooms are spacious enough. I don't think there's anything wrong with the cabin. Obviously, if you have 5 people sleeping in there, it's a bit much. We only had 2. So I get it. Like if there's 5 people, it would be a little tough on storage space. There's not a lot of shelving. There's a fairly big closet, but for 5 people, as far as clothing and storage is concerned, it's a little. They could use some more room, but nonetheless, I think it works. It's fine. If you want a tour of all 3 of those room types we've had so far, we have the standard cabin, we have the standard cabin with the 5th sleeper, and the Galaxy class suite. Video tours of all 3 of those are up here on YouTube for you to enjoy. I want to talk about changes in the food. Obviously, the first go around, the food we thought was just okay. There were some minor improvements this time. I think they're starting to find their way, especially with the buffets, as far as making sure the food is served at proper temperatures and proper consistencies and things like that. I felt the buffet food was slightly better, and we will be updating our reviews on the site to reflect this since we've done a second review of them. Definitely some improvements in food. The dinner menus still feel a little but buffet food felt certainly slightly improved over our first voyage. What I thought was really interesting, so service on the ship is top-notch. Everyone, everywhere is phenomenal and so sweet and caring and just going above and beyond in every department. And so they knew it was my second voyage, and so someone came over and said, because it's your second voyage, on the second dinner night, we'd like to do some enhancements we do for VIPs and give you a little bit of enhanced experience. I thought that was very sweet. And so what they did was they brought us a different kind of fish. It was a red fish instead of a white fish with a soy glaze, and it was phenomenal. It was the best thing I had had at any meal on the ship, and I couldn't help but think at that moment that probably due to budgets, they weren't allowed to do this, but what they were trying to show me was this was probably the fish they intended to serve with the main course on second night dinner, but probably due to budget constraints, they weren't allowed to. You may remember Ohana a couple months ago when they came back, they tried to cut some money out of the food service, and because of that, they changed some dishes, and one of the things was like the shrimp casserole and some other little things, and people revolted. People rebelled against that menu change, and eventually until the point where the peel and eat shrimp had to come back because people were livid. There is, especially with these all-you-care-to-eat places, this constant budget struggle that these restaurants go through. It's not always their decision to serve those lesser items. So the whitefish that's on this menu for second night is fine. It's not great. It's just kind of there. But this redfish that he brought out was phenomenal. And I really hope that given the success of Starcruiser, they will be able to push back a little bit and break out of the, what the flavor lab has provided them to serve and be able to make changes like that, like switch out that whitefish for that redfish. It would be a tremendous increase in quality. They did some other things like that where it was clearly more of a thank you gesture. So with our main course, we got lobster and caviar with the main course, which was a very nice gesture. It was very sweet. I will say the lobster I've had a lot of lobster at Disney World. It was probably the best prepared lobster I've had at Disney World. Not a caviar guy, but it was nice. It was very sweet. So somewhat an improvement in food. Again, we are going to go back in May. We have one last room type to review, and that would be the Captain's Suite. And so we're doing that in May. We're giving it a little time to marinate and to figure out what this experience is going to be permanently. And so we will see in a couple months' time. We'll come back and review again and see if things have changed. And hopefully, I hope, because the food and beverage team looks like they're really trying, and I really hope they get this all figured out. I'm rooting for them because I think it's one glaring department where, other than that Batu transport and the screen in the room, those are kind of the shortcomings. And I feel like food and beverage, those other things are going to be a lot harder to repair. Food and beverage can turn this around very quickly if they're given the budget to do so. Consistency. I want to say this, even though it was a completely different entertainment staff, almost completely different entertainment staff, Captain Keevan was the same, that it was consistent. Certainly the portrayals of the characters are different. These are different actors and actresses. They're going to have different interpretations and different nuances in the way they play each character. That's not bad. They give the characters different personalities, but as far as quality level, I felt like it was very consistent. It was very consistent, and it was as good the second time around. There was not a dip in quality at all. So I think that's wonderful that they've really brought on A-list improv actors to do this. These are the best performances I have seen in a theme park environment, and in many cases better than some performances I've seen in higher echelon, settings such as Broadway or wherever. So these people are very good at what they do, and they're having a lot of fun, and they're providing a lot of fun for guests, and it is Really wonderful. It's really wonderful. Both casts are doing a tremendous job right now. Repeatability. So obviously I did it twice in succession. And so sometimes when you do them twice in succession, the second time could be less special, or just you start to notice things that maybe are, the shine comes off of things sometimes on the second time. I would dare say the shine remains as strong, and in some cases I appreciate things more so even the second time around. I think because of all the different paths you can take, and because so much of it is improvisational, and because there is so much to do on the ship, I think this is easily repeatable. Now, from a financial standpoint, it's kind of not. I get that. I know that's a lot of money. But again, this storyline and this system are going to be in place for a couple of years. And so if you go and have a really great time, but you get that itch over, a year or two later, and you're like, there was a lot we didn't see. I would like to go back and do it again. It was a lot of fun. It's easy to do. And it is easy enough to put yourself on different story paths and ensure that you will have a different enough time. But even so, like, there were so many things that I had to make a point to go do that I missed on the first cruise, different activities and things. And so I think it's very repeatable. And I think even for a third journey, there's plenty of story stuff I've still not seen. So even on a third trip, I will still have things to discover. And there are so many little moments, because those actors are acting the whole time they're on stage. And it's a lot of time they spend on stage. Because of that, there are so many little story moments that you either miss, or you may even never catch them. You just got to be at the right place at the right time. But you will see some of them. You will inevitably have some moment where you are kind of the only person in on a story moment. And those actors do not put down their guard at any time. They are constantly in the characters. There are things that I'm pretty sure they didn't even know anyone was listening in at that moment. And I heard them talking about story points and giving more story exposition and really taking on the character at every moment. And those are the most magical moments for me in the whole cruise, is when you catch the characters off guard, but they're in the story still, and they're just talking about events that have happened on the ship in the story and what the next move is going to be, and it's pretty magical. It's pretty great. It is Streetmosphere at Hollywood Studios, Adventurers Club at Pleasure Island, Main Street characters, all of that in a 40-hour nonstop experience. And if you ever loved any of those things, have a love for live theater, you will fall in love with this experience as well. It is really well done and really great, and certainly repeatable. So that's everything I wanted to cover in the second review. Again, if you watch this and you haven't seen the first review, I would go watch it. And if you're really curious about everything else on the Starcruiser, we have dozens and dozens of videos here on YouTube for you to enjoy. We have dozens and dozens of posts on the site to help you get through stuff. There are spoiler-free posts that are meant to just give you the information you need to have a good time and make the most of the money you've spent on a Galactic Starcruiser trip. There are spoiler-full posts for those of you who think, I'm probably never going to do it. I kind of just want to see what this is all about. We've got both of those style of posts. We have food reviews, all sorts of stuff at WDWNT.com. Of course, be sure to like this video. Please subscribe. If you want to support our coverage and what we've put into this, you can support us by joining the WDWNT Interglobe Society at patreon.com/WDWNT. It's a great way to support everything we do, as is shopping at Carousel of Products at carouselofproducts.com. Thank you for watching another Galactic Starcruiser Voyage review. We'll have a third one coming up in May, and also tons more videos still to come here on the channel. Tons more posts to come on the website, and so much more Galactic Starcruiser coverage. So stay tuned, and best journey.